Check, check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, can hear you loud and clear. Uh, Hope you had a good Monday. Welcome back to our At the Buzzers. How was
Welcome.
your day?
Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. It was a good day. Good Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. It's a good day overall. Took some decent trades in fast markets that we'll talk about. But how was your day, Coach?
Pretty uneventful. Took some small losses, some small gains. Followed the plan. It's basically a scratch. Um,
Stuff. Good stuff. Scratch is a winning trade. Let us know how you did in the chat. If you were up today, down today, maybe you were flat, didn't trade at all today. Uh, Anything that you learned from the day. But welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. Talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we can take an advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. Uh, this is your first time here. I'm Coach Jay. Been a top step performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past six. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and perhaps help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. All right, let's talk about the markets. We didn't really have much as far as news goes today. We did have a 6 month auction, a 3 month auction that we have all the time. We had a Dallas Fed Manufacturing Business Index come in at 35.8. Forecast was negative 17. Actual was negative 35.8. I think we got some bigger numbers coming out later in the week. Tomorrow we have the JOLTS job openings and consumer confidence. Wednesday we have GDP number and PCE numbers. So the bigger numbers later in the week this week, and of course we have non-farm on Friday. So pretty quiet as far as news goes, but that does not mean the markets were not moving. Coach, you got anything else on the news before we get into the markets?
Yeah, just that the T-bill auction,
Okay.
Treasury auction seemed to be pretty well received. There was a pretty decent rally in the Treasuries. Other than that, there wasn't any big news. The T word was not mentioned
Nope.
by a certain person, so um, really, pretty. We're back to reasonable ranges.
Correct. Yep. No mention of tariffs today, at least yet. The day's still not over yet. But it looks like the president is hosting the Eagles right now, so I don't think they're going to be talking about tariffs. Maybe more about touchdowns. But let's get into the markets. There are 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. And today, to the downside, we have micro Bitcoin down 0.92%, crude oil down 1.86%, and wheat futures, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 2.25%. To the upside, we had gold up 1.87%, platinum up 2.34%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 6.65%. To talk about our big four, we already mentioned crude oil down 1.86. The S&P is down 0.09, pretty much unchanged. We talked about gold up 1.87%, and the Nasdaq down 0.24%, which is pretty much unchanged in this environment that we have been in. Can you get a DUI on a horse? I wouldn't try it. I wouldn't. I wouldn't try it. It's,
Well,
it's an interesting question, Moo Mooses. All right. I gotta get one on a
uh,
bike. I'll tell you that much. I have a Nasdaq chart up here, Coach. Take a look at the daily since we are starting the week, and I'll pull up your moving averages. I tried to do that. There we go. What are we looking at here on the daily, Coach?
Still under the 20-day. We didn't even make an attempt. I believe we were
Under the 50 day.
inside uh, the
Under the
50
50
day.
day.
Yeah, sorry. Under the 50-day. inside most of Friday's range. Um, Not much action. Slow down, waiting for the T word or any kind of settlement of such T word. Um, Really, classic range action. Um, but didn't it? It's we talked last week. The selling cascade has stopped. Um, we're still above that 20-day moving average, and it's flattening out.
Yep.
So it's accepting this this pricing. Still think we're gonna get a chance to run a bit higher. Still looks pretty friendly to me.
Yeah, I agree. Also, kind of an indecisive day, but I think with a week where we know that the heavier hitting news, or what should be heavier hitting news, is later on in the week, and not surprised to see a bit of consolidated day. ATR on the daily in the Nasdaq is 723 points. Today's range high to low was about 354. We understand how averages work. We're probably going to get an expanded range day at some point this week, and with all the catalysts that we have, it could be tomorrow or Friday with NFP. All right, let's go down to a. I'm gonna go over to the S&P chart since that is what I traded
Sure.
during uh, fast markets. A couple of things we were looking at here. April 2nd was Liberation Day. That candle was 55.75 at the lows, up to 57.72 at the highs. We know that we gapped down, um, right after the announcement when we opened up for Globex. So we had that gap here, and we kind of tested into that gap today. That was actually a little bit lower, around 55.65. So we tested into that gap today and kind of rejected from there. And it's why I was looking for a short. I think coming into the day, we've been talking about this April 9th candle, which the high of that candle is 55.20. And we said, maybe we're bullish above that. But then there's another spot to look where we know a ton of volume came in, and that was after that Liberation Day where we saw a ton of selling. We haven't traded those prices since we printed that candle. So then going into the morning session, overnight, kind of not really too much to talk about. We kind of consolidated in between the two. We can see we held 55.20s as the high. But when we came in for fast markets this morning, uh, looking at this 55.65 level, coach, where if we look at the opening range, if we look at the opening range and we attach VWAP to it, that volume never got inside of that liberation candle range. 55.65, we can see VWAP kind of stopped right at the low. So I took this short. Dakota was short in the Nasdaq as well. I think I took it from 55.67. Shout out to you, coach, with the two ATR stop that kept me in this trade. Went two ATRs on the 3 minute chart, which at the time I took it was about 6 points. So had a 12-point stop, which was safe on this trade, and got about a 2 to 1. And the reason why I was a little bit comfortable taking this trade because on a higher time frame, this was an area of potential rejection. We saw that early on, volume was not leaving that range to the upside. So it was a pretty comfortable short to take. Now, did I know it was going to do what it did and trade all the way back to 5,500? No, but again, you say it all the time, coach. 2 to 1s on day trades are great trades, and that's about what we got here. Um, wasn't the easiest trade though. I know Dakota took it a couple of times. He initially took the short, uh, got stopped out on it, took it again, and I mean, we consolidated for almost an hour before we actually got any price action to the downside. Trend.
It's interesting, Coach. I took the exact opposite.
Okay.
I jumped it, want to settle above it, put in my 12-point stop
Okay.
on a micro, got stopped out. But
Yeah.
I would take it again. The reason I did that, it was above the 200 bar moving average on the half hour.
Yep.
So, but then I noticed if it would have left VWAP would have left the range, I believe I would have bought another one,
Okay.
but it didn't, and I lost a chip.
There you go.
Nice trade on the sell side. Um, yeah, and it was after that I said, well, but VWAP never left, but when we talked, I accepted that risk.
Yep.
When you said these average true range or volatility has come down a lot in the last 10 trading days. I mean,
Mhm.
as you said, it's 6 points. At one time, it was 20, 15.
Yeah,
So
insane.
it was worth the risk. Um, I'm and now it's a place where I can add to a winner. Um, didn't get that chance, but yeah, I also think a lot of people jumped in early on this trade.
To the long side.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and it looked good, right? If you look at the overnight, I mean, we started to it looked like we were going to accept inside that range, and there was room up to 5,600 at least, which we don't know which one of our trades are going to work and which ones don't. So yeah, I don't hate the longs there either. And really, again, there was nothing really decisive about this price action until almost an hour and a half into the session, where buyers showed they couldn't get in that range. Um, and shout out to Dakota for sticking with the thesis of wanting to short. I think he was down 2,200 at some point, ended the day positive 3,000 by just sticking with his guns and managing his risk. Right, we didn't over leverage, and eventually the trade played out. And I think that was a perfect example of he loses 70% of his trades.
Yep. And and I've talked out of one of the some of the best advice I ever got was to trade one side of the market on any given day. And
Mm,
like you said, he stuck to his guns. He was looking to sell it.
yep,
He was down at the beginning, but caught it. What I believe a lot of traders get into trouble is like originally they tried to sell it, it rallied, so now I buy it, and then it breaks, and then I'm already stuck twice, and now I'm uncertain, and
spin
now
cycle.
you get in that spin cycle. Um, it doesn't have to be that, but if you get caught in a spin cycle, there goes combines.
Yep,
It's so I like, you said he stuck to his guns. Um,
yeah.
didn't get caught.
And you did as well, coach, right? To the buy side. But I think what's also important there, and I see Linus Rain saying had a rough morning this morning, buying it too early and stuck with it, waiting for it to break out. What you did, coach, was accept the loss, right? If you didn't accept the loss on this trade and a measured loss, it could be it could be 5 times what you measured. If you're just saying, hey, no, this has to come back up. And eventually, maybe it did come back to your entry, but this is a shitty day sitting through this entire drawdown here, waiting for the market to come back to break even, right? So just taking the loss, accepting it, and maybe if I'm buying it, there's a better location. I think is important because you know were you right about if you bought it at 55, 54s, were you right eventually? Yeah, but I don't want to sit through a uh, a 50-point drawdown in the S&Ps to figure that out.
And most likely you're gonna puke near somewhere near the lows.
Oh yeah, right here at 50. Okay, as long as 5,500 holds, I'm in it. And then you get stopped out here, and then the market down and goes without
Yeah,
you. Has anyone been there
I ha
before?
yeah. I was really good at that for a couple years.
Yep,
It's something I didn't want to be good at anymore. So, in all seriousness, measured risk, taking small, like you know, Coach Dakota. It's relative the size of his loss. This is a much bigger account
yep,
than $3,000,
sure.
but sticking to it, catching it, and not panicking.
Agreed. We got some questions here. How do you decide what candle to pull your fibs from, and how do you use it? Jeremy John, for me, what you can see what I did on the higher time frame was, uh, you know, significant events in the market. Right, Liberation Day was April 2nd. It's okay to buy was April 9th, and Jen unsolicited, what's the significance of April 9th? That's the day that the president said it's okay to buy, we're delaying tariffs. And you can see we traded inside that range, kind of held 50% of it until we're closing outside of it. So first I'm going to anchor there, and then on a shorter time frame, if I go down to like a 3 minute or something like that, the I'm going to find high volume, right, and anchor to that high volume. So something like this. Then I will attach a VWAP to it and see how volume responds to that range. You can see price left the range to the upside, volume didn't. So this is telling me that this short is still valid. We did have a burst of selling here that kind of you know, really made me trust this trade a little bit more. And see volume from there left the range to the downside. That's telling me to short it there. Uh,
Boy, there was a failed J trade there.
this one here or this
To
one, this one,
that
this
one.
one. Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, we closed.
And by the way, I have to say that because these aren't when we talk about a J trade or some this it's a higher probability trade. It's not a sure thing.
Yep.
And if I'd have saw that again, I would have taken that trade with taken another small loss.
Yeah. I mean, we closed outside. Risk would go on the other side. It's about a 15-point loss. I mean, with a couple micros, it's a losing trade, but it's not blowing your account either. Um, but there was validity to taking that trade too, coach. We that looked like it could have been the low,
Yeah,
and I think good point with you saying we can't cherry pick the examples that work out all the time because there really wasn't a great reversal trade on the day. We kind of just got down to 5,500. Everybody stopped selling, and we turned around. But there wasn't like a clear example. I was doing a meeting with some VIPs and they took the trade from 5,500s, which was a nice trade. But I'm looking at this and I said I didn't really have a setup to take. So I didn't get into the trade until a little bit later. But yeah, failed opportunity there. And that's just a percentage of the time where the trades aren't going to work out. Alex says, what is a J trade? So basically, high volume exhaustion that normally ends up being the low or the high of the day, and we're looking for a candle close outside of that range, right? So let's say this ended up being the low for the day, uh, this range right here, looking for the market to close outside of that range, buying it, risk on the other side, and then looking for continuation on a reversal. Just in this case, we didn't get that reversal. If we add VWAP, if we add volume to it, that volume never left the range as well, which is why we see the market continue to sell it. But that would be the trade there. I think we had some in a couple of different markets today. Uh, One more question from Chauncey, and then we'll move on. Coaches, when we were trading below value area low today, and the value area low wasn't moving lower, is that a sign of volume not moving, and we can expect price to reverse? Let's take a look. And Chauncey, are you talking about developing value area? Because if you're looking at value area from, let's move this to a regular trading hour chart. If you're looking at value area from, and I'm not the best volume profile person, so this might be a Coach Ray question, but I'm going to do my best. Coach, if you have any ideas on value area as well.
mm, well, let's look at the fattest part of that profile.
All right. So we have yesterday's profile, right? Yesterday's
Mhm.
volume profile, and I'm going to put another one on here for today. Value area is not moving lower. Yeah. So you're looking at the developing value area, which we would need to put on this chart here. This is an opportunity for us to learn here because I'm not.
Uh,
Go ahead, Coach.
well, once again, value or not, we went to yesterday's low.
Yep.
Um, Look what the volume did, and that volume was a higher volume yesterday. This volume was trending lower. It wasn't follow through selling, and then look at the ranges coming down into some value there. There
Yep.
was the light volume again today. Didn't follow through, which, there is the selling that couldn't follow through. What does it turn into?
Fine.
Buying late, too. Now, remember, too, that developing profiles the later in the day, the bigger probability it's going to move the other direction in the auction process. Not every time. There were structures where it's from, but this one, think it's just it's identical to Friday's auction.
Yep.
Low, but there's a low volume both days. Spent very little time near the lows. So it wasn't accepting. There was no pressure. There was no new sellers. Most likely, the way I used to read that, today's sellers were the early buyers.
Mm,
This was not larger participants.
okay.
The urgency wasn't there, um, which we bounced right off of the low volume area to finish near the highs.
Right back at the
Uh,
eyes.
I hope that explains some of it. Boy, look at that candle. What is that candle
This
called?
is a daily. It's a doji. I think it's a doji, unless somebody else has the candle dictionary. But I think that looks like a doji to me. So really, nothing has changed, right? We have balanced market. Do we accept back inside this Liberation Day range, or do we fall back into the April 9th range? Is the question. I think this market is still very uh, sensitive to headlines. We close right in the dead center of this range. Uh, it's pretty crazy
I was
to look
just
at.
gonna say that.
But
But look at that. th- There's like a wall.
yeah, yep.
Um,
What do we do? Who's gonna win here? Buyers or sellers? Buyers are below us. Sellers are above us. Somebody has to win this fight. Anything else you have on the equities, coach?
let's take a quick look at the weekly.
Okay.
It's like a mirror image of the daily.
Yep.
That's how big those ranges were. So once again, this is the wall. I mean, we could be stuck here for 10 years, as
Alex, I
Alex.
hope not. I hope not.
Well, we become very good range traders.
Right.
I don't know if there'd be any volatility to sell in the options, but yeah, it could be. I mean, it's not, you can't rule it out.
Yeah. Um, we get stuck here for 10 years. I might be doing something else. Uh, let's see. There was a comment from Alex. How do you attach a VWAP to a specific candle? Using the anchored VWAP drawing tool in the drawing tools projection, 5 icons down on the drawing tools. You have anchored VWAP. Just click that and then click on a candle and it anchors it from there. All right. Anything else? The Dow might still be playing catch up. Dow is still trading in this April 9th range. So if you're looking for a market that might be playing catch up, it's the Dow. I think the Russell has already left that range. Russell's probably looking like the strongest out of them all. And Nasdaq's kind of somewhere in the middle. All right. Let's move over to gold, coach. Here's gold on a daily. What are we looking at? Range.
That could be there for 10 years too. We don't know. But yeah, we're in a range. Almost, I mean, really, do I have to go through it? What's the low? What's the
Yep.
high? And we're just grinding through it. Still, I'm friendly to another rally. But where's this the fourth day? The previous correction was what, 1, 2, 3 days? Um, but yeah, we could be stuck here, still above the 20-day moving average. Um, well, if you've been watching gold, it can come at any moment,
Any
night
moment.
or day. So you traded gold today. Let's see what you had
I
in your
did
mind.
trade gold today. Let's take a look at the half an hour open from last night. Seventh, here it is. Under that 200 moving average on the 30-minute, coach. Kind of didn't even trade up to it. Traded to whatever this selling was. Kind of rejected there. 33.48 was the high. Some urgency last night, where I think we've seen this a couple of times now, where over the past 2 or 3 weeks or so, we've been seeing buying in Asia. The last couple of sessions, we've been seeing selling in Asia and it getting bought back up in New York. So I think what will happen. and this is just a hypothesis. Again, anything we talk about here is for educational purposes only. Sometimes just us making a guess of what could happen because truly no one knows. When we start buying in Asia again is when we start to trend. Uh, and
It's
and maybe not before that. I don't know if if that's really a hot take or it's just like, hey, Captain Obvious, that's exactly what's been happening. But whenever Asia starts to buy this again is when
and yeah, that was there's a two-way market. It wasn't neat. There was some nice trends today, but to say that there was some difficulty in there. 'Cause that turned around when you least expected.
yeah,
Um, but yep, we finished higher on the day. But most of that came after the close.
yeah, it did. Um, so we had the urgency last night, sold us back down to the bottom of the range, 3300s. We sold under it, but the low of the range has been lower than that. If we look at the daily, 3280s is that lower extreme. Let's actually take a look at this because if this keeps doing this, you know, trade the pattern until it breaks, right? We're looking at 3280s as the low, call it 3375s as the high. We didn't get that high today, but you got to account for these wicks up here. Um, but by the time we got to the New York session, I missed a trade where we saw a spike of volume come into gold. I think I was short the equities are just getting out of that ES short. And we saw this volume spike right here, and uh, I was looking for the market to kind of come back to 3313s, but I should have just used the market button, coach, and just got into the trade because I was
Uh,
not getting 3313s.
was your market button broken?
I don't know. I think I was just being scared.
But but you know, it's interesting. We had that spot on the lows. They tried to sell it again, or the market was sold again.
Yep.
The heavy volume. But
Yeah.
on this one, it took three. But once again, three times they tried it earlier. This market, I think this is further reflection that this market is balanced.
Yep.
The bigger player is out of it, and we're rotating. Um, but look at that buying though. I can see where you're at. That was the highest volume of the day.
What was interesting about this too and why I wanted to get into it. Look how consistent this was, right? We've seen volume spikes where they spike and then drop off. We came off the low of that range, which is higher time frame, and it was just, most of the move was done in about a half an hour, uh, with just consistent buying volume coming in. After that, we kind of flattened out a little bit. I did try to take a short, and you said something earlier, Coach, about getting missing the trade that you wanted to take and then getting on the other side. I did like the shorts because we were up near the 200 moving average on the 30-minute, this white line right here. So I waited for the 30-minute candle to close here, took the short, got some price action, but I think, with where we started the day, it was, I mean, clearly a higher likelihood that we were going to end at the higher end of the range. So maybe this is a short that I look for tomorrow. And again, educational purposes only, not trading advice. Um, but I could have got caught in the spin cycle here as well, coach, and held on to that short and been a lot more
I
wrong on the day.
a lot more wrong. I like the way you put that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things when it touches that up on like in a 3 minute that time, I'll put a VWAP. See if it breaks out of that range. When the first candle it hits the 200
The 200.
on it.
Let's see. What price was that? So that was at 33.41. 33.41. Yeah, I don't think we ever
Yeah.
did.
But I've been watching that too. Where I can define some. Yeah, yeah. VWAP never left that range. Price did. So on a price basis, break out of that range, sell one, define your risk.
Yep.
Um, but knowing just that selling, that VWAP really was flat. Um, I would expect it if there was a good selling at that level, VWAP should be bent going down because of that. The function would be there would be volume driving it lower.
Yep.
There was no volume; it was flat volume.
But we can see it decreasing here. VWAP flat, price left, really nothing. And then after the close, we got or kind of into the close, we got a little bit of a rally. Uh, I'm looking to trade this range until it breaks. Right, give me a reason to do something else. Gold, if I'm going to trade it. But presenting some decent opportunities. This range is still pretty big. I think we can still be trading micro gold if we look at the we're ranging right now, and the ATR is increasing on the daily. Uh, which is pretty crazy. We see the ATR, we see average true range decreasing on the equities and continuing to increase in gold as we're ranging. These might look like small ranges just because we're kind of chopping around here, but this is the highest ATR we've seen going back 5 years in gold.
Yeah,
Trade micros.
I mean, here, what's the ATR on a 3 minute?
Let's take a look. Middle of the day, it was around 5 points.
It's $500, high to
Three
low
minutes.
in 3 minutes. Okay, half of that is 250. I'm
Right.
gonna let that sink in. So if you're trading the big gold, I mean, at the average range 500, you need minimum of $50,000 to trade that comfortably
Right.
within means.
Where
So
you're not
if you
sweating
don't
every
have
trade.
50, you can go to the micro. If there's nothing, remember that this gold contract was designed when gold was $200 an ounce. Literally, keep that in mind.
12x
So,
since then, 10x since then,
uh,
11. That's bad math. 15x.
it's X's, lots
Yep.
of X's. So, when I talk about position size, and keep that in mind. Um, it's important to know you don't big fund managers that were trading 500 lots in gold positioning aren't unless they have that they're not putting 500 on right now. If their if their capital is the same.
Right. One thing I have seen in gold as well is the order books have been pretty thin, and I think that makes sense for the increased ranges that we have. Um, it's not the same as it's been. Anything else on gold, Coach? Before we move on to crude oil,
That's it.
black gold
Text T.
on the daily, got a little bit of range going on here as well. What are we seeing here?
Well, we failed to close above that 20-day moving average again, and this time we sold off pretty decently. Um, s- it still looks. I mean, boy, it looks like the opposite of the black of gold.
Yeah.
Um, it just slowly trending down. After the rally, looks like equities.
Yep.
But if I close my eyes and open them again, I would say, didn't you just leave the S&P?"
Are we looking at the same chart?
Why are we looking at the same chart? But this one is not closing above the 20-day moving average. There isn't any urgency to own it, um, even off this rally. Let's look at the half hours. Anything else you see in that daily?
Not nothing really. We're still holding the that high of that April 9th range, 6230s is that range. We kind of fell back into it over the past couple of days. Obviously, we've been ranging around, and maybe the trade is to buy the lows here, buy this kind of 6150, 62 area. But there's about $1 of range available before we hit these highs up around 6350s, 64s. Last night's open kind of just chopped around until we got to the New York session and sold off into the range. Yeah, really not too much to talk about here.
And that looked really after Friday's late rally, that looked like it was going to go
Yep.
for whatever reason. I don't know. But that failed. And it was a pretty big range for crude. Um,
High to low in the day, 2.5% was I think our second largest percentage mover to the downside. So there's a trade there.
Now, looking at that, let's see what happened at 8 o'clock at Central.
Here's the 3 minute opening range. I'm not sure if the guys on, let's go to a 1 minute because I know the team doing the opening call looks at a 1 minute opening range. I'm not sure if they actually took this trade today. Here is the 1 minute opening range. And if they took it, they were long because we broke, actually, they might have been short. Hogan JD caught it. Were they short? 'Cause this would have been the short here. Their stop probably would have been here. So they might have been stopped out of this if they didn't catch this whole trend. Uh, what are we looking at here, coach?
Well, let's go to the 3 minute.
Right?
And I don't think it left the range, the VWAP.
No, it didn't.
It didn't. And now let's look at the volume after the opening.
Yeah, it started to pick up after the
Yeah,
equity open, right after 8:30, started to pick up from there. And this is why sometimes we talk about coach, especially with these 24/7 markets. The open is when the volume happens.
bingo. And it was funny because I liked the crude. I was long it.
Okay.
Um, that I got out underneath the opening range. Took took a small loss there. But once again, that was I consider that small loss a great trade.
Yep.
I didn't get stubborn. Um, if I
Have to
was
battle.
looking to sell it, well, it's interesting is we look at London because we keep saying London sets the tone.
Yep.
So let's see what London did on their opening.
Huh.
There you go.
There's London open there, 63.16 up to 63.32. Set the high from that point. Volume left the London range to the downside. We can see by the time we came back in for New York, we checked that range again. Volume was already lower. Prices up here, volume's not. This is, a nice opportunity to get into a short in a market that's trending lower. Um,
Yeah,
that's if you
excuse.
look at that.
Yeah, I didn't. I start to in crude because we just said one does the opening.
Right.
It's not your traditional. It's crude oil is literally the most traded commodity.
Mm,
24/7, 365 days a year, 10 years. It never stops. It's
right.
the lifeblood of the world economy. Now, we've been seeing this pattern. London, Brent crude, I believe, is a bigger um, trade than WTI. I have to double check that, but it's a massive market. Um, it set the trend,
Yeah.
and while I was long it, and I kept it. I said, "Well, I actually looking at that. I said, if it fails the opening 3 minutes, I'm getting out of there."
Mm,
I thought there was a possibility, at least a probability, it would rally through there. It
yeah.
didn't. Guess what? I was wrong.
Could have
Out.
held on to it. Wrong big.
So it was something to look at if you're trading crude because we don't, in equities, and I'll explain it again, we get a huge surge of volume when New York opens. Commodities, that doesn't have to happen.
Yep. All right. We got some questions here. When we go over platinum, we'll take a look at that. And then Sam Lin has a question. I have a question. What's a good way to determine trend when it's starting? Try that
I'll
one.
make one simple. It closes above or below the 200 moving average. Daily, hourly, half hour.
There we go. Mm. Um, for me, it's whenever volume starts to get directional. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, I actually understood that.
Right. Whenever volume starts to get directional, here is VWAP anchored to this high volume spike. It's flat. Then I start to see volume coming in. VWAP is, and maybe I didn't catch the high tick of the trend, but I am of the opinion that I don't need to know the high and low of the move. Maybe I could have anchored it here, right? Volume started to get directional, right? This VWAP is flat. This one is to the downside. This is the start of the trend. Uh, do you always know that it's the beginning of the trend? Sometimes you catch it, but if it's a good enough trend, you don't need to catch the high in order to or low in order to make some profits from it.
And you just
Right?
said something you don't know. It's a higher
Probability.
probability.
Yep. All right. Guys, sorry if I missed it. Would it be possible to speak on Renko settings? Barrio Parque. I am the worst person to ask. I have never figured out how to set up a Renko chart. Going to be honest. I'm the worst person to ask that. Coach, you know how to use Renko charts?
I used to. Let's go to that tomorrow and we'll go over it.
Okay.
I'd have to review because I couldn't figure it out. The same reason I personally don't use range charts. I just but I have used them and I'll answer that. We'll bring that up again tomorrow. I'll go through it.
Awesome. Mohammed was just on. If you have a Twitter, Mo spoke of it today, but was not clear. I think Mo might have a video on his YouTube page. If you can find that, if you find him on Twitter, he has this link to his YouTube page there. I never use them, so I have to do some research on that, but we can. All right. Any other markets? Platinum. We had a question about platinum. What was it? Greg Sticks talking about the range that platinum has been in. How long has it been doing this? And this is a daily chart, 5 years at least. It's kind of just been in this range. We've talked about this trade a couple of times here, where buying platinum in the lower extreme of this range, somewhere near 900s, and trading it back up to 1050s, and then just fading it again for educational purposes only, not trading advice. But if we get up to 1050s and I see some rejection there, I might be short on a swing trade. But it's been doing it for a while, right? You look at, excuse me, if you look at Coach Paul's moving averages, the 20, 50, and the 200, it's like a bowl of spaghetti, right? You can't see where the lines really start or end. They're kind of just wrapping around each other. It's just a big range. I think in platinum, what I try not to do is get caught up somewhere in the middle of this, but there's some decent opportunity for swing trades on the extremes of this. What are you looking at when you see this chart, Coach?
Still amazed. It's in $1,000 area.
Yeah.
There were t- there it, when I first started, platinum was about twice what gold was.
Mm,
Now, platinum is an industrial metal. It has much more uses than gold. But this is a classic example. If you're going to trade something, you have to trade that market's internals. If you're trading platinum because of gold, if you're trading silver because of gold, you can get into a lot of trouble. This one, if you're a range trader, I would focus on this market. S-
yeah.
I'm not.
Me
I
either.
traded it for about 6 months, and it just was random. Um, so if you like trading ranges, check this place out, but don't expect to. to trade it because gold is making all-time highs.
That's a good point.
It's a trap. So,
Good point. All right. Got a question. Another one for you, Coach Paul. Do you think it's possible a top step trader can get hired at a real prop or a small broker? I really want to break into the space. Any advice is appreciated. Thanks.
oh, absolutely.
Top step's a real prop. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah. If you're talking for bigger money, I'm like an SMB or a Wolverine trading or one of those. Yeah. But I will tell you this, this is a place if you you're going through a combine. What are you doing in a combine? Proving that you can what?
Manage
Make
risk.
money or manage risk. I've been in a few firms like that. They all they care, their number one thing is managing risk because you have to prove to them that you're worthy of handling their money. Put yourself in that place. Okay, you would say someone, one of your friends comes to you says, "Man, I got this futures thing figured out. Can you give me 50K?" What was your first answer? Yeah, sure. But do you want it in check or cash? But and where's that phone? Stop.
Telephone.
Um, i- they're going. You're going to ask them questions like, you have a track record. How long have you been doing it?
Right.
What are your returns? How volatile are your returns going down? But I would tell you this, and you could ask Coach Dakota. You could ask anyone of the time. If you have a record and that record meets the criteria and you've got time doing it well, there's going to be money, probably more money than you can handle. So yeah, if you, by the way, if you can get through these in time with these, what top steps, combines, and XFA and requirements, and you do that well, yeah. But I don't know, they probably won't let you go. You will find money.
Right.
Um, that's why I keep saying the key part of it is money management because I don't want to. It You can get lucky and make a bunch of money quickly. Can you keep it? Can you can you go through? How do you go through drawdowns? Are
Right.
you consistent in your risk? Those come in when they have the data. So yeah, if you there's plenty. Like I said, and this is true. There's more money than you can handle if you prove yourself or that you can perform over a certain amount of time.
ES has had the most up days since this downtrend has started. 5 days green. Just looking at charts here. Any other charts that you want to talk about, Coach?
Yeah, let's look at the uh, Japanese yen again.
Hold up the 10 year, its cousin. Here we are. Japanese yen on the daily.
Yeah, Friday and today we played with that 20-day moving average. We're above the 200 and we bounced like a nice rally. Still looking to buy a dip in the Japanese yen. All the currencies rallied in much the same manner.
It looks like a
Dollar
healthy
weakness.
pullback.
It was a healthy pullback. Yeah.
Held this consolidation. We did do gold already. Yep. Uh, go ahead, Coach. You were saying dollar weakness.
Dollar weakness. The trend is still in the yen, euro currencies, Swiss, still up. Um, but it was a nice bounce off that 20 days. So we can see that there is institutional buying down there. Um, if we look at the half hour
For Samlin, you cannot trade the dollar. Um,
index,
cannot trade the dollar index. We can trade other currencies. Please do not text and drive. Go ahead, coach. Half an hour.
So we'll look at the 200 bar moving average. We got above that, and look at the volume. This was
Oh wow.
huge volume.
Yeah, it was. Where was I? What was I doing when this happened?
See
Trying to short
now,
gold.
let's get that price and that time.
Let's take a look. So that happened right around 10:30 on the 3 minute candle. There's the
I
price
don't know
there.
what came out, but man, I was
Whatever it was, they bought it.
yeah, and look at we had a classic selling exhaustion right after it.
Oh yeah.
And it was tough to buy that because but there was big buying in the end today.
Yeah, it
I
looks like it.
I really don't know, but the trend is up. They got a chance. Maybe it was short-term sellers, whatever it was. They had someone was confirmed. Buy it, Mortimer, and it was whatever was going on in trade tariff talks. There was urgency in that buy today.
Coach, I got a question for you. If someone's looking at trading the currencies or like specifically the Japanese yen, and looking because at Topstep we have to day trade it, how would you suggest approaching a market like this on a day trade? Am I looking at it to trade during the Asia session where it's the Japanese yen, so it might make sense? Is there better opportunities during New York session? How do you go about maybe day trading this?
Uh, Good question. Very good question. The way I look at it is from the Globex Open.
Okay,
That's all you can do
okay,
because it's 24/7. And if you're trading, basically you're trading against the dollar. Um, but the volume in the futures will kind of coincides. Um, so if we look at the euro currency, it's going to look very much the same.
yep. Let's go out to a shorter, longer time frame on the euro.
Wow, look at the volume on that buy.
Yeah. And it came all the way back, right? Came all the way back down, but held that range. This if you're looking for volatility and you're looking for markets moving, these currencies are doing it.
Yeah, and we're in a new world, literally. Um, I think Swiss franc was very much the same.
Wow, that looks like an even cleaner move where we don't get that vicious pullback. Man, there is a ton of opportunity out here. Ton of
Yeah, and
opportunity.
let's look from last night. So someone asked that question, when's a good time? Well, with this, you could just, I'm only looking to buy it. You had a breakout on a price of the range, but look at how long it stayed in that opening range.
Yep,
Look what VWAP. That's just there's no action. Um, but actually, in this is classic. We did get some selling.
yep,
We broke out of the range. We made lows of the day and didn't go lower. That's a warning.
yeah,
You could still make the trade if you got your risk. I don't want to get short.
right. So you're not even looking at this as an opportunity, maybe an opportunity to get it at a better price on a buy.
Yeah. Actually, that part there's really nothing. I would have had to buy it much higher,
Right.
but it's a relative much higher. This when it leaves the range, then we got huge buying.
Yeah.
Um, so still on that, you could sell it. Maybe you make a little money, but what you can't do is wait for it to be a winning trade.
Right.
It never worked for me. I don't know if it worked for anyone else consistently. I think it's
Hoping?
a high.
No, doesn't.
I
It
think
work.
it's a high probability it doesn't.
Hope doesn't work too much. What is the peso doing?
Oh yeah,
Looks a little more choppy than the others right now. Peso kind of did the exact opposite of everything else.
yeah. I was cleared.
Oh yeah,
I haven't traded it yet.
perfect timing. Look at where we're sitting.
On the precipice.
Interesting. All right. Think we kind of went through the currencies, Coach. Anything on your scouting report that we haven't already talked about, or
That's it. Really, I don't. How
awesome
about
stuff?
anything
Uh,
else we didn't cover?
Micro Bitcoin. Let's take a look at it, and if you can do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate you all joining us here today. Micro Bitcoin. Uh, Looking kind of bullish here on the daily. Are kind of channeling up. We are trading close to that $100,000 level, but consolidating a little bit here. Maybe a little bit of a bull flag. But if we look, what's that white line? If I'm only looking to buy this, right? Let's say higher time frame is telling me trend up. Coach, you said you look to buy markets that are above the 200 moving average. When we opened up last night, we were above it. Little selling early into it. Uh, Decent short opportunity here. Almost the same thing as we saw in the currencies there. We get a little bit of a pullback, kind of stops right at that 200 moving average, and a nice buy from there. I may be looking at this one tonight when I'm on slow markets with Dakota. You're on mute, Coach.
I know, I know, I'm on mute. No, yeah, it's bouncing and holding the 20 over the 50. Now it's coiling. We've been in that range for a while.
Yep.
Um, I don't know my feelings. It's got to it's going to move out of here. Most probably to the upside. But if this 20 and look at also the 20 and the 50 are about to cross, and all the averages are tight, means it's going to move. Um, yeah, I'm going to look at it the first half hour. Um, this has got the DNA of a long.
Looking pretty good. All right. I got nothing else. We got about 2 minutes before we close here. Remember, we got Coach Hoop doing a class in Discord at 4:15, right after we're finished here. Nope, 4:30. Right after we're finished here, 4:30 Central Time. Of course, we got Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time in Discord. Dakota for slow markets tonight at 7:30 Central. I will be joining him today. Uh, that's about it. Trade well, manage your risk. These markets are presenting opportunity. There's a ton of markets presenting opportunity. You don't need to trade every single one of them. But if you maybe you're struggling in the equities, we just kind of showed a couple of examples of markets that are still moving and maybe trending a little bit better right now. That does not mean that they have to continue that trend, right? That could all stop tomorrow. But markets presenting opportunity. Coach, anything you have before we go?
Yeah, just the one thing, Chauncey, definitely MJ. And I'll leave with that controversy.
We're gonna end it there. It's a little Chicago bias talking, but
Oh yeah, hands down.
we'll go ahead and get
Maybe
out
a
of
generational bias too.
here. I watched him play towards the end of his career. He was all right. Thank
Uh,
you, everyone, for joining. Kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Deep.
wow.
I'm gonna go end the stream and think about that one. Bullet traders, thank you. Andrew, thank you as always for helping us run this session. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.
All right. Bye.